So friends, Donald Trump's picks for various positions are struggling. Matt Gaetz, Attorney General, gone. Pete Hegseth, Secretary of Defense, not looking good. Next up, this guy, Kash Patel for the FBI director. Let's talk about that because, for gosh sakes, justice matters. Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. So friends, Donald Trump says that he wants Kash Patel to head up the FBI. I mean, let's just look at some of the reporting about this character. Let's start with the Associated Press. Headline, What to Know About Kash Patel, Trump's Pick to Lead the FBI. And that article begins, Kash Patel has called for radical changes at the FBI and was a fierce and vocal critic of the Bureau's work as it investigated ties between Russia and Donald Trump's 2016 presidential campaign. Now, the steadfast Trump ally has been tapped to lead the federal law enforcement agency he's pushed to overhaul. Patel has, for years, been a loyal ally to Trump, finding common cause over their shared skepticism of government surveillance and the deep state, a pejorative catch-all used by Trump to refer to government bureaucracy. Now let's have a look at some of the thoughtful positions Patel espoused. In an interview earlier this year, Patel vowed to sever the FBI's intelligence gathering activities from the rest of its mission and said he would shut down the Bureau's headquarters building. That's right, he would shut down FBI headquarters on Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington, D.C., and reopen it the next day as a museum of the deep state. In a separate interview, Patel said he and others will go out and find the conspirators not just in government, but in the media. Quote, we're going to come after the people in the media who lied about American citizens who helped Joe Biden rig presidential elections, Patel said, referring to the 2020 presidential election in which Biden, the Democratic challenger, defeated Trump. Quote, we're going to come after you, whether it's criminally or civilly, we'll figure that out. But yeah, we're putting you all on notice. That's right, Kash Patel says we're coming after you. There may be no crime because Joe Biden didn't rig any election, and we may not know if we're going to come after you criminally or civilly. And sure, there may not be any evidence, but we're coming after you. You know, that's kind of the opposite of what law enforcement does. And friends, in 2023, Kash Patel wrote a book called Government Gangsters. And in it, he included his deep state list, or what the Washington Post refers to as his enemies list. Kash Patel has an enemies list centered on grievance. And just who exactly is on Kash Patel's deep state enemies list? This from the New Republic. The who's who on Kash Patel's crazy enemies list. Of course, it includes people like Kamala Harris and President Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton. But here's what I find even more interesting. There are lots and lots of Republicans on Kash Patel's deep state enemies list. For example, this from the Washington Post. Melania Trump's former chief of staff and later Trump administration press secretary, Stephanie Grisham, made the list because she eventually spoke out against her former boss. So did Alyssa Farah, who worked for the government only as a member of the Trump administration, but who apparently became part of the deep state when she offered negative information about Trump publicly. Who else is on Cash's deep state list? White House counsel Pat Cipollone and Deputy White House counsel Pat Philbin. These are people who defended Trump during his first impeachment trial, perhaps because Cipollone rejected Trump's efforts to retain power after losing the 2020 election. He was placed on Patel's deep state list. And then there's former Trump Attorney General Bill Barr. What is the only serious offense Patel accuses Barr of committing? Threatening to resign if Trump installed Patel as his, Bill Barr's, deputy. And I think Bill Barr's words were, over my dead body. Patel includes in his enemies list two of his own actual bosses, National Security Council Chairman John Bolton, an arrogant control freak who also resisted hiring Patel, but finally did so reluctantly, and Mark Esper, who tried unsuccessfully to fire Patel. And friends, I could go on, but let me finish up with just a few more tidbits from the AP article about who Kash really is. Patel has played a role in several legal investigations into Trump. He appeared in 2022 before the Washington grand jury investigating Trump's hoarding of classified documents at his Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida after Kash received immunity for his testimony. He also testified at a Colorado court hearing related to Trump's efforts to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election and in the run-up to the violent January 6, 2021 riot at the U.S. Capitol. You may recall the Colorado case litigated the question of whether Donald Trump engaged in insurrection, and the Colorado trial court judge ruled he did. And the Colorado State Supreme Court affirmed that finding, that Donald Trump was indeed an insurrectionist. At that trial in Colorado, Patel, who at the time of the riot was chief of staff to the then acting defense secretary, testified that Trump had preemptively authorized 10,000 to 20,000 troops to deploy days before the attack, but a Colorado court later found that Patel was, quote, not a credible witness, close quote, on the topic. Shortly after Trump left office, Patel launched Fight with Kash, an organization that funds defamation lawsuits and peddles a wide variety of merchandise, including branded socks and other clothing with the K money sign H, presumably Kash, logo. You know who has no business heading up the FBI? A guy who published an enemies list. An enemies list that contains not only a bunch of Democrats, but a bunch of Republicans, a bunch of powerful, influential, connected Republicans. Friends, if any of the people on Kash Patel's enemies list was ever actually indicted and prosecuted, you know what Exhibit 1 would be in their defense? Their defense of vindictive prosecution? It would be Kash Patel's book, his deep state enemies list. Good Lord. You know who else has no business heading up the FBI? Somebody that a court, a judge, found was, quote, not credible. Not a credible witness. You know who else has no business heading up the FBI? Someone who said he would go after people for committing non-existent crimes. Joe Biden rigging an election, because there's no evidence that Joe Biden rigged an election. And Patel says, I'll go after them criminally or civilly. I'll figure all that evidence, schmevidence. I'm going after them, Donald Trump's perceived enemies. Kash Patel, in my opinion, is disqualified from serving as the director of the FBI. Because for gosh sakes, justice matters. Friends, as always, please stay safe. Please stay tuned. And I look forward to talking with you all again tomorrow.